thank you so much, Zoe, for tuning in and joining me and sharing your time with me, because I know we've got a massive time difference, so I really appreciate it. And so Zoey Arielle Poulsen was born and raised on the beautiful Vancouver Island in British Columbia, and you may know her from the YouTube channel Zoey Arielle, which showcases her life journey, minimalism, eating plant-based, and moving to Rome, Italy, and now in Bali, to embracing spirituality and traveling the world. She's a verified YouTuber, published author, and certified life coach. At the present time, she's doing what she loves each day, life coaching, creating content, and empowering people to step into their dream lives unapologetically. And we're going to talk about her awesome book, The Joy of Minimalism, which I need desperately in my life right now. So, hi, Zoe. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the introduction. I am so excited to be here today and just have like-minded conversations. Always inspiring.
Thank you so much. And yeah, Zoe, I loved your book because it is literally what I need. I'm like, we went through an insane decluttering session like for the last week, and we're just like, has to be done, must do this right now. So, and reading the book just gave me like a bit more like inspiration to like stop buying useless things. So, thank you so much for sharing your book with me at a time when I really need it. So, Zoe, you tell me about your, first of all, what made you write this book?
Uh, Well, I'm first of all, I'm so happy that it's helped you in this way. Especially, I know the last year and a half more has been so reflective for people. So I'm so happy that you have decided to embark on the journey of minimalism, whatever that might look like to you, because it is such a beautiful journey of self awareness and letting go. And it can always just feel so rejuvenating and replenishing in all different ways. So amazing that you're well on your way here. And yeah, so what made me write this book, or how did I start writing this book? So I was working in corporate marketing in Toronto, and I was, you know, in the hustle, I guess you could say. I was in consumer packaged goods marketing, and I just felt like all I was doing was being at work. It's kind of this when you're an intro student getting your first initial job in the industry, you can feel like you have to do whatever you can to get ahead. And so for me, that looked like, oh, I'm going to go into work early and I'm going to stay late each night. So I was staying at the office, or I was getting to the office by 8 a.m. each day and staying until 8 or 9 p.m. sometimes, just to prove myself. I suppose that was kind of the mentality. And I was very unfulfilled inside in different ways. And what I found was that I would go to the mall on my weekends or wherever on my weekends and go shopping and just buy a lot of different things, whether it be makeup or clothing, things that would give me an initial boost because I was feeling like I was so exhausted by my job. And then what would happen was those things would sit on in my dresser or hanging in my closet, and they didn't get that love and attention. It was simply just for the initial boost of excitement or energy I would get when purchasing them, because my day-to-day life in my corporate job was so unfulfilling. I was essentially trying to fill a void. And as time went on, I started to get very burned out by my job. And I eventually just bought a one-way ticket to Rome, Italy. It was always my dream. And I had a rough day at the office. I mean, to put it simply, there was a lot of things that led up to that point. But I had a rough day at the office, and I just went home and I bought a one-way ticket to Rome because that was my dream. I told myself one day, when I first initially visited Rome 5 years prior, that I would live there for 1 year so I could learn the language, I could absorb the culture, I could eat all the amazing food. And so after I bought that ticket, it was 3 months out. So I realized, okay, well, if I'm going to make this move, I actually have to get rid of everything that I own. But having a goal like that, I mean, I sort of stumbled upon minimalism unintentionally because I started to get rid of all my belongings, started purging my closet and everything. And I started to document it on my YouTube channel, everything that I was learning about my consumerism habits, my habits of trying to fill a void, an emotional void, with clothing and with purchases on the weekends because I was just unfulfilled on that day-to-day basis. So, I mean, fast forward, I found myself in Rome, and one of my videos on minimalism went viral shortly after that documentary came out on Netflix a few years ago, the Minimalists, or Minimalism. I think actually close to like 5 or 6 years ago now. And so my video went viral, and a publishing company reached out to me and said, Zoe, would you be open to writing this book on minimalism? And I'm like, well, definitely, because I have so much content. I've learned so much about myself on it. And I feel like because I'm not a professional minimalist per se, I just sort of stumbled upon it like anyone else might if they're wanting to create a change in their life. I felt like I would definitely be up for the challenge of writing that book. So that's how that happened. Within 1 year after that, the book was published, and it's been a journey since
Yeah.
then.
Actually, just to like chime in with that, which is, how did you actually define your minimalism journey? How do you define it?
Yeah, that's such a great question, because I feel like online there can be so much judgment or shaming around people of like, oh, you're a minimalist, you're not, you own this many things, you don't. I truly believe that the journey of minimalism is unique to one's own, just like a health journey, just like a fitness journey. It's completely unique to you. And there is no one cookie cutter that fits every single person. And there is like no one method that's bang on for each person. Like I know some people follow Marie Kondo, or some people take a more, just their own level of consciousness approach. There is, I would say, no right way of doing it. It's really just tuning into you and tuning into what actually feels right to you. And so for me personally, it was kind of just like I was prompted in my life to look at the things that were no longer serving me in a physical sense. But with that, I also started doing that on a emotional, spiritual, energetic sense of, as I was taking this new journey in my life of decluttering or minimizing, I wasn't just looking at the physical in my life. I was looking at everything, like the friendships or certain people that I was keeping around, even if they weren't serving me or even if they didn't make me feel very good. So I started to become a lot more conscious of what actually felt good to me and what felt draining, or what felt like clutter, if you will, in my life. And so I believe that the journey is that way for each person. It should always be an internal one, and not just in the physical, but asking yourself, what can I learn about myself in, let's say, purging my closet, or taking a closer look at my friendships or the people who I surround myself with. Do I feel good, or is this hindering me and hindering my goals, or my process or my journey in some way? So
That's so true.
each unique to its own.
Indeed, definitely. And actually, I found that really interesting that you said that in a way your father helped a little bit. And I was just wondering, like, if you could explain, like, how do you think your father helped you be more minimalist growing up?
Yeah, say my dad definitely helped me be more minimalist, because he's quite minimalist himself. Like he has like a very minimal wardrobe, and I noticed like the way that he like saved and spent money was for experiences versus
Mm,
things. Like, and that's how we grew up. Is, we might not have gotten totally spoiled on Christmas like I saw other, like my cousins around me or something like that, but we got to go on these amazing family trips where we would go skiing across British Columbia and things like that. And that's where I had joy. That's where I could experience joy. It wasn't Christmas morning open up new PlayStation games. It was being outside with my dad, camping or skiing and taking part in these things. So I've always valued experiences over physical possessions or items. And even now, like I see it not just because I'm more of a minimalist, if you will, these days. But what I found is that for any type of gift giving, I always love to give experiences. I always love to take my friends out for dinner, or take them to the spa for their birthday. I always want to do something versus giving a physical item. And so that I feel like was ingrained in me at a young age, thanks to my dad.
that's amazing. I think, yeah, it definitely helps, isn't it? Like, you know, I'm going to come back to this because obviously I come from a family of hoarders, which always makes it so much more difficult, isn't it, to declutter? So I was like, it's difficult. And actually, what do you think was the most difficult thing for you to let go when you started your minimalism journey?
Oh, that's such a good question. I mean, there was a difficulty in letting go of things that I never actually used or wore. I mean, that was a hard pill to swallow, or something difficult to face, because that was me confronting my own self-sabotaging habits of spending money to make myself feel better, but not actually using these things. So that was a bit confronting at first, but I would say the hardest things to part with, probably cards and books. And so cards or letters from people, because I'm always quite sentimental, sometimes like to save those things for periods of time before I let them go. And books, because books, I just love books so much. And I would say, oh, there was something else. It was cards. Oh, and photos, or like photo albums. But now we have such the gift of technology that we can scan these things or post them on Instagram if we want to. So
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm like, I have like Christmas cards from like years ago, and then I had to get rid of them. I was like, oh, this is hard. And actually, but would you say, like, I remember you were talking about in the book that when you first started working, did you feel like there was like a sense of freedom to buying like whatever you could, especially with your first paycheck, and you finally like feel like you control your own money? So would you say there's a sense of freedom to that?
definitely, definitely. I mean, especially like I said, also said, my dad played into this role of living more minimally, but I also didn't know what it felt like to, let's say, spoil myself with material possessions. So when I got the chance to do that, I did go a little bit crazy at times. And I mean, since then, I've definitely let go of a lot of things. I've definitely learned from it. I mean, sometimes we have to go through those extremes to learn from our patterning and what we or different ways in which we're sabotaging or learning lessons. But yeah, there definitely is a sense of, now that I'm an adult, if you will, out there in the world making my own money, I can buy all these things. And then there's a bit of a learning curve with that.
Yeah, and actually, I was wondering, how did you actually break that cycle of like shopping as a pick me up?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And I would say I definitely broke it when I decided I was going to Rome, even though that was only in 3 months. But once that happened, and once I came face to face with all those items that still had tags on them and my own patternings, and trying to fill this void, I became very present to that. And I was like, I don't like myself doing that, because if I wouldn't have spent all this money on all these items that I didn't actually enjoy, perhaps I could have been in Rome faster. Perhaps I would have come to this conclusion faster. I mean, all in divine timing, of course, but that was how I kind of looked at it, was that if I wasn't self-sabotaging in this way, I could have had an abundance more. So that was kind of the learning there.
Yeah, no, totally. I totally get that because actually, do you feel that like, and why do you feel that maybe people are unwilling to do this sort of internal work to bring about like radical change?
I think it's because our comfort zones can be so comfortable, right? It's not so much that we fear the unknown, because the unknown can be exciting, it can be opportunistic. It's that we fear the loss of the known. So all your possessions around you, if that's all that you've known and what you've obtained in your life, and based on how you're grown up, we're all different of our level of attachment to these types of things. If it's all you know, it's fearful to get rid of. If you think about it, right? It's fearful to get rid of all those things that have represented safety or represented comfort around you. So I think that's naturally why people are resistant to it. But once you slide into the world of minimalism and purging your closet and all that, it becomes addicting, because you realize, oh my gosh, I actually don't need that much. And I actually feel a breath of fresh air now that I'm getting rid of these things.
Yeah, oh God, books are, as you said, the hardest thing to get rid of. I don't know why, but I just can't get rid of the books. And actually, I'm sure this is the same for many people, but what do you think, especially like how do you think young people or even little Zoe can sort of collectively work towards minimalism without the need to fit in to the sort of groups? Because I felt like there's a lot of peer pressure sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. So much peer pressure. And I feel like that's one thing too that minimalism actually helped me work through, was because there was peer pressure naturally around me, like living in a city like Toronto. It's kind of the hustle bustle, the fashion, like everything can be so tempting. So there's that part of the peer pressure of like wanting to fit in with your friends and wanting to have nice things to show off. There's definitely that type of materialistic desire there. And then peer pressure wise, I also faced resistance from people when I was like getting rid of everything. People like, you're crazy, especially when I got rid of my job. like, wow, people would kill for that entry-level job. Like, are you sure you're going to do that? So as I was minimizing my life in different ways, there were different levels of peer pressure. But I would say that it was the most beautiful journey because each time I was confronted with one of these decisions or confronted by someone else's resistance, I asked myself, okay, well, why are they causing me to doubt myself? And really, they're not causing me to doubt myself. I just don't feel strong enough in my truth or my calling or my intuition around this. But as you release those layers and as you let those things go and move through that, you have a much more definite frame of self and frame of your intuition and your journey, and you overall trust yourself more. And I feel like that's one of the most beautiful gifts that have come from minimalism, is that I know myself and I know that I don't need all of these extra things to feel good about me. If I'm good with me, I'm good with me. It doesn't matter what it looks like on the outside, what I'm wearing or where I'm living or what I'm doing. If I'm good with me, that's it. I'm fulfilled.
Yeah, so true. And yeah, and I think growing up, for me as well, like I tend to, hoard things because I think, I might need it later on, like in a bit to sort of never buy anything new. And I blame my mother for this completely. So how do you be minimalist without buying things you may need for the future?
Yes. Oh, I recently moved from Toronto to Bali now, and I lived in Toronto for 2 years where I had a condo, so I had to furnish the apartment. And I recognized that there were ways in which I was slipping. I was slipping from just like buying things. And I mean, I think it's actually quite challenging when we are all locked up for a year. So, there's online shopping comes in and it's exciting when you get a little package. But what I found, what I was stocking up on or hoarding on, was food. I would because
Oh,
I would normally go outside and go to the mall to just walk around and look, or go walk along the streets of Toronto. Because we were so limited, I found that my outing was the grocery store. So I was going
yeah.
and just buying all these pasta supplies. I want to make this. When things open up again, I'm going to have all my friends over for a dinner party. So I'm going to want to buy this, this, and this. I just started to go to the grocery store as much more of a consumer than I've been in the past. And so that's what I realized, is actually I ended up giving away and donating a lot of food because my cupboards were just like stocked right up. So yeah, that was definitely something I learned from, was that like these layers of discomfort, and they can arise, and there are different ways in which we try to fill that void with purchases.
Yeah, totally. And you made a really good point about gifts and giving, like which I think is so important. But how long do you keep something before you start regifting it? Because I've kept things for years with the idea that I'm going to regift it. And I was just like, what's the cutoff point where you just go, no, either I gift this way right now or I'm throwing it away.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I get so much joy in giving. So I think I always tune into that. So that might be a helpful place to go to, is, okay, well, me holding on to this, or imagine giving it to someone who would get excited about it. So that's how it feels better to give than to receive sometimes,
Yeah,
right? So I think
totally.
I love to just see people's reactions, even if it is those like
Yeah.
physical things. Like I said, normally you lean towards experiential things, but sometimes those physical, if you have like a nice candle that you want to regift.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
everybody loves a candle because it is disposable, you can run through it and whatnot. But yeah, tune into the idea of giving. And I think that's also a point, reminds me of purging your closet, right? So recognizing, oh, is this for me, or is there someone out there who could use this or would appreciate it more?
Yeah.
When I was younger, my grandmother used to take me to the like Salvation Army or like thrift stores, and I used to love like looking for these key items. Like I remember one time I found these cool pair of skater shoes that were like a designer brand, and I was like, wow, I can't believe I found those. So I always tune back into that place too, and I'm looking at my items. I'm like, wow, could another younger Zoe actually have found this and been excited about it? Or, a young
Mm.
child or a family, somebody who could benefit from this more than me. So tuning into that place of giving is always, always very key and helpful.
No, definitely. And it's so difficult, as you said, like we've been stuck indoors and everything, but the internet and social media obviously doesn't really help very much with consumerism, does it? And so do you think, like, it's made it worse? And what would be the antidote to this?
Yeah, I feel like it can be quite tempting, right? Because there's, so many subconscious levels to which we compare,
Mm,
right? And I think that naturally leads to wanting to have things or obtain certain items. I would say, it could go either way. I want to stay on the positive frame and say like it's made it better because there are influencers out there who do influence on the topic of minimalism, and there's certain things in my life that I've learned more to minimize or purge based on, let's say, following a YouTuber who was showing me different ways of reducing plastic or
mm,
smarter ways to shop. And so I found a lot of key insights and knowledge from that. So I'd like to say that there's a more positive movement out there. But I know that with the whole like fashion and fast fashion blogging, there's like a lot of showing and then getting rid of. Like I'm sure there's a lot of influencers out there who I used to follow. I choose to like unfollow um, any accounts that perhaps maybe cause that subconscious desire to go out and shop or buy things. But I'm sure there's a lot out there that I was about to say that just wear an outfit once or twice and then you
yeah,
don't see it again. And so that's a little bit sad, right?
it
It's
is.
sad to just know that there's a lot of consumption happening and perhaps, not so conscious versus the other conscious side. But I'm going to feed positive energy into that knowledge growing, conscious consumer lifestyle.
Yeah, totally. I'm like, it's so difficult because I live with someone who basically prefers to just throw everything away. And
Mm.
he doesn't, he's very minimalist in the sense that he will just throw things away. But, I find that really wasteful. So, how do you find this balance between like, being minimalist, but also, someone who just throws things away as well, which obviously I don't like doing.
Yeah. What types of things are thrown away? Would you say what's more of the
Like
subject matter?
literally everything. Everything. Food, even like a duvet the other day, just everything. If he had the choice, he'd just throw everything away. And I was just like, no. I said, we could donate this. We could put this to a good use or give this to someone. He said, no, that'll take too long. And I said, oh my God, but isn't that wasteful? So where's the sort of the line between trying to be minimalist, but then also spending the time to actually do those things like donate and stuff?
Yeah. Oh, I definitely know what you mean because this is the layers to it you're speaking to, right? Because I have such a hard time getting rid of food. Right, like
Thank you. Yeah.
I shame myself a little bit sometimes or judge myself a little bit when I perhaps buy things and they go bad in the fridge because I forgot about them or I didn't use them. I'm always like, oh, I can't believe I did that. I always get a
Yeah.
little bit upset about that because I know that other people could use that. So what I would say is, learn from those little, I don't want to call them mistakes because we're always learning, but learn from those different scenarios and move more consciously in the pathway forward. And then when it comes to certain things like duvet or furniture, I actually ended up, before I moved just over to Bali now, I sold everything I owned on Facebook Marketplace from my
Oh,
cell
did
phone.
you?
Yeah, I sold
What?
everything
How
so
quickly did it
fast.
go, though?
Yeah, I would say I really hammered down for 3 weeks. 3 weeks and it was all gone.
Whoa.
It was so easy. Facebook Marketplace, I didn't even know really what it was before I hopped on there,
Yeah.
but a friend recommended it to me and it was so easy. I just took a photo, put a price and posted it. And I would get so many people like inquiring. And, even if it's just like I sold some things for like $15, $20, it doesn't matter because at least you feel like you're getting some kind of an exchange for things that you might have
Yeah.
invested in. So that can also help your mindset. And, saving and putting that money towards your goals are what you're consciously creating in your future.
Yeah, definitely. And do you know exactly? Because I've put things on eBay and we have another app here called Spot, which does a similar thing, but somewhere like your neighbors. So your nearby person will find items from you. And it just never goes. It takes like a month and there's just nothing. So I was like, at what point do you just stop, and just give up? So that's why I was just like, okay, I'll try Facebook Marketplace and see if that works because I've got still lots of stuff.
Yeah, I definitely recommend it. And it's just like, if you decide to set a little challenge for yourself, like one thing a day on Facebook Marketplace, it
Hmm.
becomes addicting because you start to see how fast things are going and then money starts to come in and it gets to be exciting. I remember like at the end, I'm like, what else can I sell
Yeah.
or purge or get rid of? And also you see how excited people are when they, land a new coffee table or something like that. They're
Oh
like, wow,
yeah.
this is so exciting. So it's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think you made a really good point, which is throughout sort of the minimalist journey, you need to stay inspired, right? And I was
Yes.
just wondering what helps you stay inspired nowadays?
Yeah, so I think what helps me stay inspired now that I've just kind of recently moved over to Bali is I really appreciate the fact that I don't have too many things. So this is the second villa that I've lived in, and I just pack everything up in a few suitcases and I'm on to the next. And I really like that light lifestyle where I can just move around so freely. And I think right now that's my motivation, especially because I love traveling. I haven't been able to do it in such a long time, and being locked up in a box, you really kind of are like, I feel like I'm much more appreciative now of being able to be outside and experience new places, new people, and new restaurants and things like that. So I feel like my motivation now comes from just being able to feel more liberated, more light, and more free in my life. But I would say other kind of motivations that people could have for just to toss out some ideas is buying a house, buying a car, like having a type of goal that helps you be more conscious around your spending. And or if you desire to create a move for yourself, right? Moving anywhere, like you don't realize how much stuff you have until you have to pack it all up and move it somewhere. So just starting to be conscious around that is also a good idea. Or if you're happily settled wherever you are, just tuning more into yourself. And anytime you feel tempted, ask yourself, like, why do I feel tempted? Why do I feel like I don't have enough? Why do I feel like I am not enough? Because ultimately the universe is your mirror, and everything that this journey is reflecting back to you is just a question for you.
Amazing. Yeah, so true. That's definitely true. And do you have any sort of final last words for me and the rest of us people trying to lead a more minimalist life? Do you think?
Yeah, well, I would say just be kind and compassionate with yourself because, like I said at the beginning, it's a journey and it's unique to everyone. There can so easily be this, comparison and judgment stuff going on the internet and all that. And just do your own thing. Everyone's journey is unique to them. If it's super easy for you to declutter your kitchen, start there. If you feel like your closet's the place to start that in the place that is the path of least resistance. And from there, you'll gain a better understanding of how you actually naturally let go of things and move forward and learn from, what you might have consumed that didn't actually serve you the way that you thought it would. And yeah, just be kind. Just be kind to yourself.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Just because, yeah, you're just like, oh no, why did I buy this? And then you're just like, oh, I've had this for like 15 years and I've never worn it. So
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Oh.
Oh man, thank you so much, Zoe. I really appreciate it because, yeah, excellent tips, excellent advice. Something we can all really learn to do much more of, especially given the world is the way it is and we've got climate change issues. It's so important to actually be more minimalist. So, thank you so much for teaching us.
Yes, thank you. And thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.